video that I have really been looking forward to sharing with you. I have been contemplating a lot what I want my summer reading to look like. And I feel like in past years, that the years that I've been on BookTube at least, my summer reading is very hit or miss. I'm kind of aimless with what I'm reading, and I'm not really sure what direction I want to be going with my reading. And yes, I need a little help and a little direction. So talking with my friend Taylor from The Babbling Bee, she suggested I make a summer aesthetic shelf. And this struck a chord with me. So you're going to see, this is sort of a twofold video for you. The first, I'm going to tell you kind of the general categories of books that I want to be reading. And each of those categories, and there are eight categories, has a color that I have coded it. And I'm going to be playing Bookopoly for my summer TBRs. And so I have a video coming where you can see me making Bookopoly in case you were wanting to make Bookopoly, to give you some inspiration. And so I figured the property pieces on that could be color coded. And if I landed on one of those, then it would be that kind of genre or category that I was interested in reading. And it will make more sense once you see the video. And then there's some other squares. And so then for my June TBR, you will see me playing Bookopoly for the first time. I'm looking forward to that. The first category of kind of book story I want to be reading are children's books about families. And that sounds kind of vague, but you know how in your mind, you know the kind of mood or vibe you're going for. So 3 that are top priority on that list is The Borrowers by Mary Norton. This is an entire series, and I have access to the audiobooks, so I could go back and forth between them. If I don't like the audiobook narrator, I could just read the physical books. The library has the rest of the series. I own a couple of them. Here's a picture from it, and these do have lovely illustrations in them, so maybe I will just do the physical copy. But it's about this family of tiny, tiny people, Pod and Homily Clock and their daughter Ariette, and they live in a tiny home. And they have postage stamps that hang on the walls like paintings. I mean, doesn't this just sound charming? So I want lots of charming reads this summer. That's the mood I have been in this year. And in summer, it's like I have just cleared my commitments to other things, and I'm just reading a lot of charming books. And then I'm going to be hoping to read The Bell Family by Noel Streatfeild. So this is part of the Shoe series, and they have rebranded it. Let's see. Does it say what the original title was? I can't find what the original title was, but I am really looking forward to this. It's just, I know Arpita from A Bag Full of Books on Bookstagram really likes this, and the father is a reverend, and so they live in a vicarage at St. Mark's, and mother is kind, the children, Practical Paul, Dancing Jane, Mischievous Ginny, and the baby of the family, Angus, whose ambition is to own a private zoo. I love the sound of this, and it just gives me those vibes that I have a sense it would be wonderful to read. And then lastly is the Melendy Family Quartet by Elizabeth Enright, who also wrote Gone Away Lake, Return to Gone Away Lake, and you will see in a summer recommendations video. This is talked about more, and I already had it on there. Someone else recommended it, so it is meant to be this summer. So I do own somewhere. I know I have, well, I'll just hold this up. Somewhere I was gifted by my sister-in-law, what is it called? The Saturdays and the 4-Story Mistake. And then somehow I have this other copy of the 4-Story Mistake. So I don't know where all these copies are floating around somewhere in a box. But I think I'm going to do the audiobook for the most part because it is very, very lovely bedtime listening. Okay, so that's the first category of children's books about families. Then the next category is sweet romance. If you have been following me this year, you have seen I'm having a love affair with sweet romance. And I did not know it was a thing until this year. And it all started with Her Caprice by Kiera Dominguez. And I was like, I am sold. Please give me many more books like this. So the first one that I have is The Noble Smuggler. This is by Sean and Bessie. I think that's how you say her name. But this is in Cornwall. And let's see. There is a notorious smuggling gang. Jonas Ainsworth, the Viscount Langton, he pretends to be one of the notorious smuggling gang that he believed caused his father's death. But then he's wounded and he has an unlikely savior, a smuggler's daughter. So Jonas and Elizabeth are undeniably drawn to each other. Yes, can we? I cannot wait to read this. So I saw this on a reading blog. I will link it down below. She reads a ton of sweet romances, and this sounded like such a perfect summertime read. And then Joanna Barker is another sweet romance or proper romance author that I see recommended a lot. So I picked up two, and the top priority one is Secrets and Suitors. Let's see. Nora Hamilton has given up all hope that she will ever find the love match she longs for. Her closest friend James has made it clear he views her as just that, a friend. So then he returns unexpectedly, and we're going to see what happens between Nora and James. I think I can guess, and I am okay with that. Then lastly, Sarah Ladd is an author that I've heard lots of good things about. And in this one, which is The Governess of Penwythe Hall, she kind of inherits these children that she was a governess to. They didn't have a mother, and then she was their governess, and then their father dies. And so then they were all kind of bequeathed to their uncle, and she accompanies them. And then I think maybe there might be some chemistry with the uncle. So I just love the sound of like taking care of all of these rowdy children and falling in love with their handsome uncle. Something about it just speaks to me. So yes, sweet romance. I'm very excited to continue to explore this genre. And then we move on to some nonfiction. So nonfiction November, I think it was 2 years ago maybe, it really did change my reading, where now I'm a lot more looking for nonfiction to read. And I feel like the nonfiction I've read over the past couple of years has ended up being on my favorites of the year list, and I want to keep that going. So the first that I am buddy reading with a group, and if you would like to join, let me know, is The Sun in the Morning by MMK. And this, I read her book, The Ordinary Princess, which is a Cinderella retelling. And then I found out she has this 3-part, big old chunky autobiography series. And this first one is almost 450 pages. And it's about her childhood in India, and then they are exiled to England, but then she ends up back in India because she missed it so much. From her childhood among the foothills of the Himalayas, by snow peaks, to winters in Delhi, where she fell in love with the dry, dusty expanse of the Indian plains, to her family's exile in England and her joyful return to India at the age of 18. I mean, come on. And I started the first page or so just to sample it, and the writing is beautiful. So I cannot wait to labor over this. And if I like this one, then reading the next in the series. I do know, I've seen the reviews on Goodreads. It can be kind of dense at times, so I'm fine. If it takes me the whole summer to get through this, but I savor it and it's a new favorite book, I'm okay with that. So yes, we'll see how long it takes me to get through this. And then next for nonfiction is Chewing the Cud by Dick King-Smith. He's the author of Babe and The Water Horse, all of these charming children's books about animals. And it's his autobiography, and I love the sound of that. And it's available on Hoopla as an audiobook. So, I mean, doesn't that sound like such a great summer audiobook pick? And then Sixpence House, which Angie from Literary Labors told me about this, and I never forgot about it. And the library has it. It is a book about someone who moves to Hay-on-Wye, which is one of the major book towns in the world. And it's full of all of these like antique used bookshops. And it sounds charming, and I would love to know what it is like to live in Hay-on-Wye. And yes, so it just sounds wonderful, and I must read it. So yeah, these are kind of all the choices that I'm juggling. So this isn't an official TBR. Like I said, in June, I'll be like, this is what I'm reading in June. And then the next category is fantasy, because I want some fantasy reading to happen in the summertime. I want to read more out of the Sevenwaters series by Juliet Marillier. Daughter of the Forest blew me away in February. So I want to make more of that happen. More of that reading happening. And if I finish, what is it? It's right up there. Son of the Shadows. That's what it is. I have the library copy up there. Then I will move on to the third one. But if I have not read Son of the Shadows, that is the one I will be reading. Then I have Sorcery and Cecilia by Patricia C. Wrede. And this is a Regency era fantasy kind of series. But it's set in the real world, but where there's magic. I love the sound of that. So definitely want to read that. And then lastly, I want to continue in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I was so sad to be done with the Fellowship of the Ring. So I want to continue and hopefully not get stuck with the Two Towers. I need to not get stuck. That's what I need to happen. Next is mystery. I really think summertime can be a great time to read mysteries. So the first one I would love to happen is The House on the Strand by Daphne DuMaurier. I loved, I just forgot the name, The King's General, that I read in March for the Knit and Listen that I hosted with Emma and Natalie, and I want to read more Daphne DuMaurier. So I've heard very good things about The House on the Strand, and I'm hazy on the details, so I will let you know what it's about when I read it. And then I read the first Beatrix Potter Hilltop Farm mystery. It's a whole series, and I read the first one, The Tale of Hilltop Farm, in the month of April, and just adored it so much. The writing is excellent. It's all the cozy domesticity that you're wanting, and I want to continue in that series. I want to make sure I make time for it. And then lastly, I definitely want to read some Agatha Raisin. I don't know. I think maybe this whole year has gone by. I'm filming this in April, and I don't know if I have read an Agatha Raisin this year, so I need to fix that. Yes, next category is Victorian. I do want to be reading some Victorian literature this summer. So the first, I would love to start Anthony Trollope's Palliser series, which begins with Can You Forgive Her? I have not read some Trollope in a while, so I have been missing his writing, and I feel up for the challenge of starting his Palliser series. I kind of needed a break after finishing the Barsetshire Chronicles. And then one I'm very excited about, that is also by the author, it's by the author of The Heir of Redcliffe, which I loved, is way up there as far as ranking in my Victorian novels. And that is The Daisy Chain. So Charlotte Mary Yonge is the name of the author. And this is supposed to be kind of a retelling of Pride and Prejudice. What I love is that it is, there's a sequel. So if I like this, I can follow this family some more. Does it say the name of the family? It does not. But it compares Ethel May, the heroine, to Jo March and Anne Shirley. And its emphasis on the domestic life of the May family illuminates the Victorian doctrine of separate spheres, the seemingly contradictory gender politics of the woman question, and the relationship between religion and the rights of women in the 19th century, absorbing, moving, and intricately plotted. Huh, that all sounds wonderful. Now, I got a used copy of this, and I noticed very quickly into getting into this, there is a lot of writing the person did in here. Sometimes this bothers people. I'm excited to see their notes because they read the whole thing. Their notes are throughout it. Their notes are sparse, but they are there throughout the whole thing. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm just hoping this will be like another Deerbrook, The Heir of Redcliffe, Wives and Daughters, that kind of gentle domestic Victorian novel vibes. That's what I'm hoping will happen. And then lastly, kind of the domestic Victorian vibes, that I think is hopeful would be another Margaret Oliphant book. So it's the next in her Chronicles of Carlingford series, which I have read the first two. Their names escape me. Their names escape me. And then Miss Marchbanks is one in the series. And the one that I want to read, the next one, is The Perpetual Curate. And I'm pretty sure this is about a bachelor curate and people really want to marry him off. I love the sound of that. Okay, the 7th category is fairy tale. I've just been really loving fairy tales, fairy tale retellings, and fairy tales in their pure form. But I cannot wait. A project that Taylor from the Babbling Bee and I are doing is a reading through the Books of Bayern series by Shannon Hale. So the first is The Goose Girl. I loved The Goose Girl, and then I got stuck in Enna Burning. But Taylor really, really thinks that if I keep going, I will like it. And I'm willing to give it a good college try. And it's time for me to reread The Goose Girl. I loved it so much. And then 2 Cinderella retellings I'm very excited for. One is Ella by Jessalyn Stewart Peaslee. And there's nothing that pops out as super unique from the synopsis. She lives with her stepmother and stepsisters, and they are cruel to her. It all sounds kind of par for the course, but it just has such high ratings on Goodreads. And I just found it on a random list of Cinderella retellings, and I want to read it and try it. And then someone brought to my attention a dystopian Cinderella retelling called Met by Midnight. This cover is beautiful, by Janine Ippolito. And the Cinderella type character in this, her name is Rena, and she is a mender. And it says she's captive to an endless cycle of receiving and recovering from the physical ailments of others, a cycle that led her mother to an early grave. And then the prince in this, Prince Jarek, he has dreamed of a young woman, a strong-hearted mender he would give everything for. When she arrives the night of his betrothal, he's determined to discover her true identity. And it sounds really intriguing, and I think even, the first sentence, her heart broke twice the day she found out her father was dying. What a great first sentence to that. So, very much looking forward to this. And then lastly, the modern classic category. I really want to delve into just some good, early 20th century writing. And the first is A Kestrel for a Knave by Barry Hines. It is about a boy who lives in a mining town, and he finds this kestrel hawk, and he learns to train it. And that's all I know about it. And there is some dialect in here. We're going to see how I do. But you know what? I've read North and South, and that has kind of that industrial town dialect. Maybe it will be okay. It's only 150 pages long, so short. I've heard it packs a punch. And then Moonflower Vine. This is a Midwestern modern classic. It's set in Illinois on a farm, and this family that has 4 daughters, and kind of just the ups and the downs of farm life, and it just sounds really good. I heard about it from Mary at Happily Ever Esh, and I want to read it. And then lastly, Mrs. Miniver, which Kira Dominguez, the author of Her Caprice, I'll hold that up, that I loved and adored, really loves Mrs. Miniver. And I don't know much about it. I just know it's a humorous modern classic, and I really liked the sound of it. So those are all of the books that kind of are fitting my summer aesthetic, and we'll see which ones I end up reading. But I wanted to share kind of the reading mood that I'm hoping to achieve with my different categories. Thank you as always for watching, and I look forward to chatting with you in the comments as always.